Intelligent Ramblings with your host, Bill Alton. Co-hosted by Gary Glenn and William Howington with help from John Coleman.
Happy Wednesday. It's the middle of the week here in beautiful North Georgia. I'm Bill Lofton, and this is Intelligent Ramblings. My co-hosts are Gary Glenn and John Cohn. Well,
Hi,
guys,
everybody.
how was your week? How was your week?
Really good, thanks.
So far,
Oh,
so
well.
good.
I got
for me.
two.
So far, so good.
Yep.
Awesome.
My grandson Logan's team, who hadn't really played very well in the regular season, suddenly put it together at the end, and now they beat a team last night, and all of a sudden they find themselves playing for the championship of their little league next Monday.
Awesome.
night.
Wow.
Yeah, it was exciting.
Awesome.
In fact, they beat them pretty bad last night.
Cool. Well, on quite a different subject, seems that Stormy Daniels has finally taken a stand in the hush trial with Donald Trump. I want to read something that I took from the AP that I thought was interesting. This is in Stormy Daniels is the one that said this. She left to use the bathroom and was startled to find Trump in his underwear when she returned. She said she didn't feel physically or verbally threatened, but realized that he was bigger and blocking the way. She testified. So it got pretty descriptive at times. The prosecution was told not to get too many details.
Well, thank goodness for that.
Yeah.
I think I was thinking about so some of the details that we did get from that encounter were really specific and kind of personal. And I think that's important because, not because it, of anything like salacious or whatever, but because it, for the jury, it puts Stormy Daniels in the room with Donald Trump in a very graphic way. It's like there's no question she was there, he was there. There's no denying that he doesn't know her. Pun intended. And so anyway, that occurred to me as a reason why they might try to draw out some details.
Well, I'll tell you what the defense is going to say. If there's no independent witnesses of this, it's going to be hearsay. It's her word against his, and it's who the jury finds credible.
Well, she is an independent witness. She's not the one bringing the case. She is an eyewitness and was there in the moment. That formed the deed around which the Trump campaign decided they were going to pay money and commit election fraud to keep quiet. So I think it's
Understood.
actually.
Well, I think she's a pretty savvy businesswoman. I mean, she's pretty smart. She's got a lot of awards for her porn movies as a director, and as porn movies aren't what we all three would consider serious art, but nonetheless, in the industry that she's in, she's directed like 100-something films and has got all kinds of awards for that. So she's not dumb, or she couldn't do that. She would just be an actress. But
I didn't say that she was dumb. I'm just saying it's who the witnesses will find credible, or the jury will find credible.
Well, if she's smart, she's got some receipts. She's smart. She's got some receipts. I mean, that would be the telltale sign for me, is whip out some receipts and say, well, here you go. I was here at this time, and so was he. So it is what it is.
It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. And I think that's just what you got to do at this point.
Just from what I've read on the trial, and I've read over it recently, and it looks like they're making a pretty good point that he was there and he did what he did, and he's got a lot of witnesses against him.
Well, and then you get the question of legally, what does that mean? You know, what fraud is involved in that?
The fraud is that he filed his taxes saying this was a business expense, and it obviously wasn't. It was a hush money expense, and you can't put hush money on your income tax. And if we'd have done that, we'd be in jail right now.
Oh yeah.
Line item 35, hush money.
Yeah, hush money.
Oh well.
Oh well. The U.S. halts bomb shipments to Israel. We're talking about 2,000-pound bombs. So they will slow down the attack on Rafah. The U.S. has basically said, we're not going to give you any bombs if you're going to go drop them over in Rafah. It's not going to happen. We're just not going to send any more. So they won't have anything to bomb them with. Do you think that's a smart thing to do?
I don't know if it's smart. I think it's expedient, and it's an easy thing for the Biden administration to do that demonstrates some kind of disagreement or displeasure with the Israeli government for bombing civilians, women, children, grandparents, along with all the members of Hamas that deserve to get bombed into the Stone Age.
Well, do you think that if Biden was not running for election that he would be doing this? Do you think he'd be going, hey, it's not me, it's Israel. Not my problem.
Oh, I think based on his past record, he probably would. He probably would stop the bombs. You know, they're the Democratic Party. Well, all political parties have got an ear to the ground as far as what's happening in the world and happening in the country. We've seen all the protests across the country, and they're trying to appease both sides, and that's a tough thing to do right now. So this may be, to use John's word, the most expedient thing to do, to not totally withdraw support, but say, well, we're withdrawing support for this particular instance because we don't agree with what you're doing. I think what the death toll over there now is about 35,000. If you take it on both sides, that's a lot of people died.
I missed a couple texts, by the way. She already swore out that her and Donald never had sex. Well,
don't leave, Joel. We're getting to your comments.
It's not election fraud. It's an accounting decision. I don't know about that. Accounting.
I had a thought about this when and my thought is that what he's charged with is in the charging papers. What's the word I'm trying to think of? Anyway, we can go look at what the district attorney, the attorney general, says he's been charged with, and it's more than an accounting decision. He's committed election fraud to the level of felony. And
Makes sense.
We could like bring out the black and white of the indictment. That's the word I was trying to think of.
Mike Anderson says it's campaign finance violation.
Well,
Okay.
And Andrea said it's creative accounting.
Creative
Yeah, but-
accounting.
But if we did creative
nothing
accounting,
wrong with that.
we go to jail. And once again, Joel, we're like MSNBC, spew one side without facts, all of the other, and then go on to the next topic. See ya. He's dumping us again. Well, Joel,
Oh well.
love you, but, you know.
I'm just saying we need to wait to see how it all plays out. If he's not guilty, then he's not guilty. He'll be found that way.
Don't euphemize. That works.
I'm content. I'm content to let it play out. If they can prove what's in the indictment, and what the charges are, then so be it. But if they can't, we're a country of the rule of law.
Speaking of MSNBC, and sorry, I'm going down this little sidetrack. I was watching. So, if Joel was here, I wish he was here so he could hear me say this. I was watching Rachel Maddow's show a couple nights ago, and she had a really good, long explanation of what's happening to the rule of law in this country, and how it has been damaged. It is being damaged by the just misinformation and the partisanship and everything else that's like wrong in Washington D.C. right now. And it was a really, I know it came from a definite point of view, but she made some really good points. And her guest was a prize-winning journalist from The Atlantic, which I like to read every once in a while. And she had written a long article about this same topic. And anyway, it was just really, really good. And it was about the rule of law and the impact that all the things that we're doing wrong right now are having to the rule of law in this country and around the world. It's not like it's limited to us. It's all over the place.
Well, the thing about it is that if you don't like the laws, you don't break them and cry foul. You try to change the law, unless you are exhibiting some sort of civil disobedience for a cause, as they did in the civil rights era, and so forth like that. But without law, it's chaos. Unjust laws have been passed, but then they've also been rescinded. And you can't just ignore the Constitution because you don't like it, or you can't make up stuff about it that's not there. I mean, there's so much stuff out there that the far left will tell you this and swear on whatever they swear on that it's the truth, and then you go to the far right and they say the exact opposite thing, and they'll swear it's true too. So who do you believe? The truth usually lies somewhere in the middle.
It's hard to know.
It is hard to know. And, you do the best you can. I don't take things, when somebody says look it up, I usually do. And I try to get differing perspectives and points of view, and then I make up my own mind. I don't take things as law and gospel because some politician said it. I mean, I can look at some of that stuff and see it. If it's videotaped, I can see it with my own eyes.
Mike Anderson says, I don't know about your area, but traffic law seems like a suggestion nowadays. It would be great if we hold those scofflaws accountable, as well as former presidents, for campaign finance violations. I absolutely agree with you. Thank you for your comment, Mike.
I wish they would catch some of these people that pass you on the right and cut across 4 lanes of traffic. You know, where are they? Where are they when you need them?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy out there.
Yeah,
Well, that happened to me. That happened to me.
Gary, didn't you do a whole talk about poor driving habits, and bad drivers and how they're dangerous a while back?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And it hasn't changed much, like I was the other day, you're going home and it's just about dark, and these idiots are driving around with no lights on. I don't get that. I'll even blink my lights at them, thinking that maybe they, it's dusk, you can still see a little bit. Maybe they just forgot. I'm blinking my lights and they just go on their merry way. And somebody's going to pull out of the road in front of them, and it's get T-boned, and it's going to be their fault. I don't scofflaws. Yeah, I got you. I'm with you there.
I wish they would at least learn to use a turn signal.
Don't get me started on that.
Yeah, it's dangerous.
Oh, I absolutely agree. What do you guys think about Boy Scouts of America rebranding itself, and they're now Scouting America? Have they caved in to the liberal society, or is it time for this to happen?
Well, you got a lot of girls that are involved in what used to be called the Boy Scouts. They're not Girl Scouts; they're in the Boy Scouts. So, and a lot of people.
Well, out of a million, they got 100. They got 176,000 girls and teens that are in the Scouting America now. So a good amount of them are girls. Kind of weird being called a Boy Scout and you're not a boy.
Well, yeah, maybe that's why they went for it, Scouting America, because and I don't know what the Boy Scouts offered that the Girl Scouts didn't. I don't know. I don't know. The Girl Scouts are still around.
I'm thinking that because they lost about 1 million. They had 2 million, and during COVID they lost 1 million participants in the Scouts, and were going bankrupt, and they had to do something. So that's what they did. They said, well, we'll just make it inclusive and combine them. I mean, is the Girl Scouts of America still viable?
Yeah, they're still around. They were involved in a lawsuit not too terribly long ago about who could use the term scouts, and the judge basically ruled that that's not protected. So, they're still around, but I don't know how long they'll be around. I don't know if they're going to. The Boy Scouts are so much better than the Girl Scouts, and girls know it. Okay, well, there you go. That's what Andrea says.
That makes sense.
Maybe they are. Maybe they have better programs, better facilities, better, okay, so why wouldn't you want to be a part of the better thing? I don't know if they're going to be involved in some sort of merger down the road and just have one big scouting family.
Well, I think that's what they've done. They've gone from having Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts to Scouting America, and that's it. That's the only organization you can join.
No, you can still join the Girl Scouts if you're a girl.
Can you really?
I don't know how much longer they'll be around. Yeah. I don't know how much longer they'll be around. But yeah. And that's what they call themselves, the Girl Scouts. They're not scouting this or scouting that. They're the Girl Scouts, and girls join the Girl Scouts.
Interesting.
So that's why maybe they wanted the girls that didn't want to be involved in this type of program. They went for the boys because they had better facilities or better programs or better mentors? Okay. Don't know. I was involved in Cub Scouts personally, then with my second son for a while. He never really went on anything much more than that. Well, you got a bunch of female Eagle Scouts now. I mean, a bunch.
Girl Scouts were founded in 1912 in Savannah, Georgia. I did not know that. I just looked it up.
Yep.
And yes, they're still a viable organization.
Huh. Well, Mike makes the point that the cookies are the best fundraiser on the planet, and so
I absolutely agree.
I'm thankful that the Girl Scouts are still around.
Yeah.
Those peanut butter cookies are the best.
Oh no, Thin Mints.
Oh.
Thin Mints.
No, not Samoas. That coconut and chocolate, man. That's good stuff.
Okay, we got 3 different answers. Okay, we'll see what everybody else goes with. Mike's going with the Samoas. Yeah. How about it, Andrea? What do you what kind of cookies do you like from the Girl Scouts? Maybe we'll get an answer here. But Samoas takes it. They win.
There you go. Yes.
There you go.
Good choice.
One thing I wanted to bring up that's pretty notable: South Africa has adopted a constitution guaranteeing equal rights. Unbelievable! It took till 2024 for that to happen, but it is absolutely, apartheid is dead, and good riddance to it. That was a evil way to run a country. And the same way we did 200 years ago.
It's finally good they made it official.
Yeah, it's official now. There's apartheid is dead.
That's good.
And on the weather front, it seems that 8 tornadoes have dropped down in Michigan, Ohio, Tennessee. Tennessee, one death in Tennessee. A car fell on, or tree fell on a car. South Africa supports Russia, though. Blurry lines. Well, we don't have to like them. We're just glad they did it. Well, guys, what do y'all think about? Let's go to a next part of our show.
All right. Well, one of the main reasons that I wasn't on last week is I was on another assignment for one of the local media outlets calling high school baseball. And for some odd reason, although it had worked before from that location, the internet just wasn't cooperating last week. I'm proud to say, though, that the Cherokee Bluff, who I was covering that night, won then. They've won again. They're in the Final Four now. And that brings me to kind of the topic I want to talk about. This is a great time of year if you are interested in high school athletics. These are the championship days. These are where the ones that are pretty good are still playing and hoping to get that elusive state championship. And once you do that, they can never take it away from you. Well, obviously, unless you do something really strange. I guess they could, but you're always a state champion. And years since Bill and John and I went to Jefferson High School hosted what was called the Georgia Olympics, which was a state all-classification meet for the boys. It was the brainchild of one Morris Bryant, who thought by bringing all of the best athletes in the state in one location, regardless of classification, it would spur better and greater competition, and it pretty much worked that way. Because not only did they compete within their own classification for state championships, they would also be competing for the best performance trophy, regardless of classification. One of the most vivid memories I've got is I was running off a shot put event one time, and this kid comes up. He's very obviously the best shot putter in all the meet, regardless of classification. And the famous Jack Keane, the meet director, had come up and said, "Gary, how's it going?" I said, "Going fine, coach." About that time, this guy goes into a spin like a discus. He's throwing the shot put that way, and it's really good if you can spin and throw the shot, except you get a lot of momentum. If you're not careful, you fall out the front. Well, when he fell out the front, he let fly with, shall we say, a scatological expression that not only could you hear it there, but you could hear it all along the fence. And then he repeated it. And Coach Keane looked at me, and I looked at him. He said, "I wish I hadn't heard that." And I said, "Me either." Well, those days you couldn't get away with using profanity in the ring. And it wasn't just a little damn or a hell no. It was really loud and really obnoxious. And well, to make a long story short, although he was the best shot putter in the meet, he wound up being disqualified from the shot put. Could have gotten thrown out of the meet. He didn't get thrown out of the meet, but he lost the state championship, lost the best performance trophy, and lost all those team points for his team because he couldn't keep himself under control. He apologized to me, and I told him pretty much what I just said. I didn't know what they were going to do to him at the end. I said, "You're an athlete. You're supposed to set a better example than that." Oh, by the way, the same kid went on to win the discus best performance trophy. But now, as I told you, my grandson's playing for a championship. The baseball people are going for championships, the tennis, the soccer. It's just a great time to be involved. Golf, I guess, is going on as well. Somebody come up with some other high school sports that they're playing this time. The track and field, as we said, they're just going for those championships. And it'll be creating memories that they will never forget. And they'll be making connections with their teammates that they'll never forget. But I hope that not only are they good athletes, but maybe athletics has taught them how to be good people. That's what I used to tell my kids. I hope you're a great athlete, but I hope you're a better person. Because unless you're crazy like me, you're an athlete for a very short period of time, but you're going to be a person all your life. So be a good person. Create those memories. Have a good time. Be a kid for a while, because it's not going to pass this way again. That's my time out. I'm Gary Glenn. Thank you.
This webcast is brought to you by William Lofton Photography. They can be found at williamlofton.com. Offering event residential portraiture at williamlofton.com.
Okay, Bill hates it when I do this, but tonight we're going to have charts and graphs, and we're going to talk about numbers, and it's going to be good. So what we're talking about is the top 400 most wealthy Americans and the bottom half of the income brackets of Americans, their tax rates for the year 1960 and 2018. Believe it or not, Gary, Bill, and I were all alive in 1960. We might not remember this, but our parents would remember it. And so here, I'm going to put up this graph, and we're going to talk about it. So here we go. So this is a graph of tax rates, and it's tax rates for the wealthiest 400 and for the bottom half of income earners. And if you look at the graph, it starts out in 1960 and it goes all the way to 2018. And in 1960, if you were among the 400 wealthiest Americans, your tax rate was 56%. And the tax rate for the bottom half of income earners was 22%. And total tax receipts that year were $40 billion, which means the richest 400 paid about 22 billion in taxes, and the bottom half paid about 9 billion in taxes. And nowadays those sound like small numbers. And in 1960, the tax rate for the richest 400 Americans was 2.5 times higher than the tax rate for the bottom half. So let's move all the way to the other end, to the right side of the graph. And I don't know if you can see this or not, but the tax rate for the wealthiest Americans has passed below the tax rate for the bottom half. And so in 2018, our total tax receipts were $2 trillion. So tax receipts grew from 40 billion in 1960 to over $2 trillion in 2018. That is some remarkable growth. If you use tax receipts as a measure of growth in the economy, that's pretty good. The things that aren't so good are that the richest 400 Americans in 2018 had a tax rate of 23%. The bottom half of American taxpayers had a tax rate of 24%. They actually paid 1% more. Their effective tax rate was higher than the group of people who are the 400 richest Americans. And in absolute numbers, that means the richest 400 paid about $460 billion in taxes, and the bottom half of Americans paid about $480 billion in taxes. So the bottom half funded the government more than the richest 400. The tax rate for the richest 400 Americans was only 0.96 of the rate for the bottom half. So that went from 2.5 times higher to 0.96, not even the same as the rate that the bottom half are paying. Here's a couple points about that. Number one, it's glaringly inequitable. And this is what causes things to break down and causes people to lose trust in the tax system. And the reason that our tax system works is because we maintain a certain level of trust in the application of taxes. We trust that they're equitable, that they're collected the same way. If you pay, you're treated fairly. If you don't pay, you're also treated fairly, like you're gonna pay fines or go to jail. And it's also unsustainable. You can't run your tax system this way. And we've been doing it since 2018. These tax rates still apply today, even though it's 2024. So how do we fix that? What makes it better? Well, what if we raised the tax rate for the richest 400 Americans by, say, 1.5 times? That would change their rate from 23% to 36%. And it would increase the tax revenue from the richest 400 Americans to $720 billion, which is a really good size, helpful number. For comparison, the U.S. defense budget is about $820 billion. So they would come close to funding the U.S. defense budget every year. NASA's annual budget is $25 billion. So what if we could give NASA, say, $100 billion raise with the extra revenue that we got from the richest 400 Americans who would simply be paying what's a fair rate. So anyway, that's my presentation for this week. I'm going to put this up on the website. And if you have any questions or want to talk more about it in our Facebook group, please let me know. Thank you.
Well, here we are. Oh, there I'm in the middle a little bit. Well, I'm waiting on my guest. Mike, are you there?
I'm here, but I don't have a video for you.
Okay, well that's fine. The last interview, I had no interview as well, and I'm pretty enough for both of us. So.
Well, I think you might be right.
Yeah. So we'll just imagine Mike is there. Mike, where exactly are you for our audience? What's your location?
Well, I am in Baltimore.
Baltimore.
Yeah, I live outside of the city. For those of you that might have preconceived notions of Baltimore, they're probably mostly right. But yeah, that's the place.
It's a pretty. I've been there once. I went up there and went to the harbor, which was really, really nice. That I noticed about it.
They're talking about redeveloping that area because we have some old buildings and it's not really seen as a desirable place for locals.
Makes sense.
Personally, I'm not happy with the proposals thus far. It's privatizing public space that 100 years ago was used for trade zones for local merchants and farmers markets, and it's just turned into chain stores and hotels, and
right,
just not what it should be.
Well, Mike, I got a new camera and I started taking a bunch of pictures and they're really good. I think I could be a professional at this. What would your advice be for me if I wanted to be a professional photographer with my camera that I just got?
Well, Bill, you've been successful. So, you and I both know that getting a camera, the first thing you do is take pictures of everything and play with all the settings. Try to learn the different parameters that create what you think in your mind is a great photo. And when you find the subject that tickles your fancy, dive deeper, take more, do it for years. Like playing a guitar, you find a sound that you like and you develop off of that sound, and you continue to learn the technicals that allow you to instantly create the image eventually that you see in your mind before you can take it. You have to learn those technicals to get to that point.
Well, does it matter what kind of camera I get? Can I get just a little small one, a little square camera you can get down at Walmart for $80, or do I need to go out and spend $4,000?
Well, if you have the money and it doesn't hurt you, sure. I don't think that's a good idea, but we all have ways to throw our money around stupidly. But I'd say, nobody needs to go out and buy a new camera now. Those of us that are working professionals like you and I, we have, needs that can only be met in a high volume setup specifically for that. But everybody's got a great camera just in their pocket, on their phone, and You know, you can do everything on an iPhone or an Android camera phone to learn your ways, and you know, through post-production editing techniques, you know, to get yourself into a really far away, you know, part of the learning process. Just, you know, once you get to the point where you want to start making money, yeah, I don't think you want to be showing up with just a camera phone. But by that point, if you're out there seeking the work, you've probably found the limitations of whatever camera you have, and you're ready to make that next step.
What would you suggest if somebody wanted to be one of the photographers at the Peachtree Road Race or the Nashville Marathon, or some kind of a competitive situation? What steps should they take to get to the point where they're able to shoot athletes, running, jumping, diving, whatever? What do they need to do to get to that level?
Well, you know, I'm going to tell you a short story that a good friend of mine, and somebody you definitely know as well, told me about how he got into this world, which was good friend of ours, Eddie. He was in New York, where he lived, and he was taking pictures of a friend of his with his camera at the New York Marathon. And he got a chance to stand next to one of the photographers who was working the marathon. And he looked down, and the photographer was using the same camera that he had. And they struck up a conversation. And that friendly conversation resulted in, at the end of that guy's time at the marathon, because I think he was just a promotional photographer at the time, so he wasn't working production, you know, sitting in one spot for hours and hours taking tens of thousands of photos. This guy was going around taking pretty pictures. But at the end of his time there, that guy found Eddie in the crowd after his friend had finished the race, and came up to Eddie and took his credential off and gave it to Eddie and said, "Have fun." And
wow,
that friendly conversation, and that, you know, like-mindedness of having the same camera and just having the personality to reach out and talk to this guy, resulted in him going into that world and taking, you know, pictures that he wouldn't have had the ability to do before. And he played the part of the promotional photographer, even though he hadn't had that experience prior to that. And he walked over to the guys who were up on the bridge, taking the pictures of the, you know, the people coming across the finish line, raising their arms, screaming like they're coming off a roller coaster. And, you know, it was through that little conversations with those guys that were peering down, taking tens of thousands of pictures, that, you know, Eddie got invited to eventually join them one day. And, you know, now Eddie is, you know, a very successful photographer, and now a manager of a major photography company that's a global powerhouse.
right.
And this is a course of decades. But, you know, to somebody who wants to work your way from the bottom, the only thing you can do is go out and practice, and you want to be around that world as quickly as you can. And, you know, if you want to work your way to, you know, say shooting Major League Baseball, you know, honestly, one of the better ways you can do it is probably start going to high schools. And, you know, you don't want to be a creep in the corner taking pictures of kids, but, you know, you want to, you know, maybe start having those conversations with the coaches and showing up a little bit with your gear and, you know, walking around a little bit. And, you know, who knows, maybe the kid that you're taking a picture of might go and play college ball. And, you know, maybe that coach sees one of your photos that you took of that kid while he's playing high school. And that coach reaches out to you, and, you know, maybe you have that opportunity through that connection. You put your finger in as many pots as you possibly can in that world. And maybe one day you'll get a bite out of it. And then you just ride that as far forward as you can. You know, take the little gigs, you know, take the ones sometimes you can take the ones, that make you some money, and other times you're going to take some that are not going to make you money. In the beginning, unfortunately, you've got to prove your abilities as a creative. You can't be demanding, payment early on. You've got to prove what you can do before you can go out. So I hope I answered your question, at least partially there.
Absolutely. And I think we're about out of time. I want to thank Mike Anderson. If you have any other questions, you go to facebook.com groups, Intelligent Ramblings Friends, and post your questions, because if I can't answer them, I'll send them to Mike and get him to answer them. But Mike, I appreciate you taking your time and effort. And like I said, Mike's a true pro photographer, and I'm sure if you have other questions, he would be loving to answer them.
Feel free to reach out, guys. Really great to be a part of the show, Bill, and thanks for calling me up. And honestly, I'd love to be back just to chat about what you guys chat about.
Well, we're going to look forward to seeing you on Wednesday nights at 8, because we're on every Wednesday night at 8.
You'll be featuring a lot of my text messages, I think.
I think that would be great, because we enjoy the people talking to us. All right, Mike, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And have a great evening.
You too.
There we are. All three of us. Wrong background now. Bum, 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 bum. Boom. How's that? Finishing remarks. Gary, one thing you said state championship, it's special. I'm going to tell you what, I've done a lot in my life. I'm 67 years old, and I've had a fairly successful career as a chef, and a fairly but limited career as a commercial photographer. But the one thing in my life that I did right was win the state championship in wrestling. And it definitely gets people's attention. You can say I wrestled, I placed in the regions, I did this, I did that. But when you say the statement, I was the state champion, people's ears kind of perk up. And they want to pay attention to you. And it is special. But it's not something that's not easily given. I would go into long about it, but it was not easily gotten. It took me 3 tries. I lost the state championship twice. So you just got to keep on going, and hopefully you'll get to whatever your personal state championship is. You'll get there, but you got to want it really bad. Really bad.
I heard a statement one time that everybody wants to win. You do. If you're a competitive person, you want to win. But do you have the will to win? Are you going to do what it takes to win? It's not enough just to want it. Now, we all want it. Well, are you going to do what it takes to win? And back to wrestling, I said that Dan Gable, who lost one match his whole college career, the last match he ever wrestled in college, he lost. And that bothered him so badly that I don't think he ever lost again. I think he blitzed through the Olympics. Said he would roll out of bed in the middle of the night, drop down on the floor, and start doing push-ups because he said the Russians were doing this. And he didn't want it. He didn't like that feeling of losing it. He didn't want to have that again. So some people get obsessive about it, but also you admire that kind of dedication that it takes to win. And again, it's something that they can't take away from you, man, unless you commit some kind of a heinous crime. I guess they could probably do that then, but it's yours. You're always a state champion.
Yep, no doubt. John, thank you for being here. Great talk tonight. I really enjoyed that.
No way, you did not.
I did. I enjoyed it, and to the point where I'm going to watch it again tomorrow.
Okay.
I'm going to be doing some driving, and I'll be listening to it as I drive tomorrow. But
that a situation like that is what, if it doesn't change, is one of those things that brings out the pitchforks and the torches, and people go over the walls and eat the rich. And so it's got to be resolved. It can't stay. The graph can't stay like it is.
No.
I absolutely agree.
That's not sustainable in any fair society. I agree. I agree with that. And the time has come for people to be treated fairly, and that's not fair.
Absolutely agree. Absolutely, guys. Hope you have a great week. I think I'm gonna probably want to be doing an interview next week. Next week I'm gonna do an update on my garden. So if you want to see that, tune in to us next Wednesday, and I'll show you how far the garden's coming. Other than the fact that my lower back is shot out because of it. But we'll see you guys next week.
See you, man.
All right. Good night, everybody. Thanks for watching.
Good night.